Hello, we're pre-recording, so anything that happens after the 7th of August, we won't have covered. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Enjoy the show.
What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome to ForTheFans with me and my co-host Ben. And today we have for you our third preview show for the Premier League season. Today we are going to be reviewing Liverpool, Manchester City, Manchester United and Newcastle United. Let's get straight into this.
Hello. It's me, Ben, and my co-host, Jack.
Hi, Ben. I'm excited for today. I'm well excited. Liverpool today. Liverpool for this show.
It is Liverpool today.
Does this mean we get to be really biased and not talk about Man City and United, or are we going to attempt to be...
It's interesting, isn't it?
It's weird how the alphabet works out, isn't it, with all these...
How are we going to shelter our title challenge and make it sound like we don't think that? That's the question.
Well, I genuinely don't think there is a title challenge from Liverpool this year, and it pains me to say that, but I think last year was a perfect storm.
You just think Champions League win, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, between us, we're doing the double. Let's start with them anyway. Welcome, everyone. It's the Liverpool, Manchester City, Manchester United and Newcastle United preview show. Let's get into it, shall we? Second place to Brendan Rodgers and his Liverpool side. They're back this season. They're here again. But they are with... Go on.
I was going to say, Scouse-Hampton's here. It's not exactly the same team, is it?
No, the big miss is going to be Iago Aspas. He's left.
I'm good. Well, I thought you were going to say Andre Wisdom, but Aspas is equally as clinical and kind of key in our system.
Jack, it's the pull of La Liga, okay? I don't think we can look past that. The pull of La Liga. Sevilla came in with a bid. It's only a loan deal, so luckily he will be back next season because we need someone on corners and whatnot. But in all seriousness, Luis Suarez has gone. Are you worried?
Yeah. I backed Michael Engu to replace him, so to see him released as well has dented my confidence and my faith in Brendan.
This has been the worst summer for you in Liverpool history, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Engu, Aspas, Suarez.
Luis Alberto, you're forgetting names off that list.
Oh, he can still be good, though. He's got a little while.
He's not unknown, isn't he, I guess?
Let's be serious, Jack. Luis Suarez has left Liverpool. He was the Premier League's top goal scorer last season. He had a hatful of assists last season. He had a mixed World Cup, I think we'll say.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
And then Barcelona came in with a very large bid of £75 million. Liverpool said they bit their hands off, and they said, I could not. Really funny jokes about Luis Suarez's teeth and stuff. And then they came in, and he was gone. And as a Liverpool fan, I think everyone thought I would be devastated and heartbroken and gutted and disappointed. Well, in actual fact, I felt a bit relieved, which is mental, because he was a fantastic player, but now he's gone. So really, I think I've kind of done it there. I think I've talked about Suarez and how we feel towards him, and there's not much more we can say about him. So let's focus on the present, Jack.
Oh, I was just going to say, for the people wondering, when you said Luis Suarez got a hatful of assists, a hatful is 12 apparently. So
that's quite a lot.
Just to clarify, because I know not everyone's well versed in the kind of hat department.
Okay, well, thank you.
Anyway, I'm actually really excited for Liverpool this year because last year the top three assist makers were Gerrard, Suarez and Lambert. And Lambert's obviously joined. Suarez has gone out. And I don't think Ricky's going to start, don't get me wrong. But I think for $4 million he might be the bargain of the transfer window. I don't want to say that before he's played.
Yeah, that's brave, I think.
It's bold, isn't it? But
yeah. Well, we've signed a few... I say we. Sorry, folks, but we can't not. We're not going to hide behind it. A lot of Southampton players have come in. How do you feel about it? I'm just indifferent. I'm just like, that's fine, yeah. Because I just trust Brendan Rodgers. That's the overall thing for me. I trust what he's going to do and what he's trying to do. And until something goes drastically wrong, I'm pretty sure that trust will stay the same. I don't know how you assess it.
I see this season as a one step back to go two forward in next.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to finish top two this year. I think I don't want to say a Liverpool fan would be deluded to say that, because I would have said that last year and it happened, so stranger things have happened. But I think just looking at it realistically and objectively, you look at the players Liverpool lost. I say players, it was Luis Suarez. But I think this is one of these seasons where you look at the signings Liverpool have made, it's very much a long-term kind of plan of Brendan Rodgers, which has been invested into, rather than kind of maybe being very reactionary to how Liverpool did last year and expecting a top 2 finish every year. Yeah. Pushing for that.
We keep getting compared to Spurs because they obviously lost Gareth Bale for a similar-ish kind of a big transfer fee to one of the top dogs in Spain, and we continue to be compared because we've brought in a lot of signings that haven't necessarily done it as such. I guess the exception for that may well be Lallana, who had a very good season in the Premier League last year. Aside from him, and maybe Lovren, we've signed a lot of. It's kind of how are they going to do in our team is a major question mark. I want to clarify. Am I allowed to clarify something, Jack?
You can clarify away.
The reason I don't think personally, and there may be fans that disagree, that I don't think Liverpool are in the same situation as Tottenham is because Tottenham heavily relied on Gareth Bale, much like Liverpool sort of relied on Luis Suarez. But the entire system's different. Liverpool have just finished second in the league. Spurs didn't do that. They weren't in any sort of position to bring in, I don't want to say top players because Liverpool haven't, but if they wanted to, I feel like Liverpool maybe could. They're kind of choosing not to. As you say, it's kind of a season to go one step back, to go 2 steps forward. As a fan, I'd be delighted with 4th, and I'll say it now.
I think just consistency in terms of qualifying for the Champions League is what Liverpool has to aim for the next few years. I think, like you said, Liverpool don't rely on Suarez as much, and that was kind of shown perhaps last year when Suarez obviously missed the start of the season through biting someone, Ivanovic. I don't want to sound like I'm just, what's the word, discrediting Ivanovic by just saying some guy. But
could be anyone these days.
It could be, exactly. It could be any one of a number of people with Luis Suarez and his biting antics. But for me, I kind of feel like Liverpool, they're going to have a job to do in terms of going on without Suarez. But it's like you said, I mean, a lot of people talked about, where are the goals going to come from for Liverpool? I think people forget Sturridge was the second top goal scorer last year. And yes, granted, that was a lot down to the kind of link-up play with Luis Suarez. But it seemed very much to me like last year, either Sturridge or Suarez is in form, but very rarely would they both be hitting it off at the exact same time.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. People mention the lack of Suarez, and that is a massive part, and I almost don't want to talk about it anymore because it's just irrelevant now. But for me, the bigger challenge for Liverpool will be back in Europe. They're back in Europe. We're not just back in the Europa League, we're back in the Champions League. The group stages will have an impact. We didn't have it last year. It was said a lot that it helped us. And yeah, you're right, it did. But I don't feel bad about it. Like, it was a massive help to us. A help that a team we'll come on to later will benefit from. I have no doubt they'll benefit from. And we'll probably do a similar thing to what we did. Do Liverpool need a marquee signing, Jack?
I don't think any team needs a marquee signing.
Okay, well, Liverpool have lost one of the best players in the world. Do they need to replace him with someone?
You can't replace like for like. You can't think like that.
Equal caliber. I'm not saying of like quality, but caliber.
I think there's a difference between caliber and ability.
No, I would agree.
I think that's often kind of confused. I think there's big links as we record this, because of course we're recording early, that Cavani might be on a late move either to Arsenal or Liverpool. Whilst that would be a great signing, I don't feel like it's a signing that Liverpool have to land in order to be successful. No. I don't feel as if... I mean, that would be considered the marquee signing for Liverpool. But at the same time, if we missed out on it, I wouldn't feel heartbroken. I actually prefer kind of the way Brendan Rodgers has gone about his business to Arsenal. And I'm just kind of singling out Arsenal because it's kind of the obvious option with the way they've added Sanchez. Obviously, they've not exactly lost any big players, Arsenal. But I very much like how Liverpool is certainly investing for the future. You look at the signings that have been made. Lallana's got a decent amount of years left in him, but then you look even further back at Emre Can, Markovic. Lovren is fairly young. He's got 5, 6, 7, 8 years left in him minimum. Origi, again, another young player. I kind of feel like it's a legacy being slowly built up rather than this kind of expectation almost on immediate success.
Yeah, I'm not panicking. I'm just not panicked. I don't feel like Liverpool are going to panic buy. I'm just fine. I've never felt this way about Liverpool before. I've never just felt fine. And right now I just feel fine. Next season, 4th, I think, is realistic. third maybe. Fourth is more realistic. I think there'll be a battle going on for the fourth and third spots between Arsenal, Tottenham, Liverpool, and Man United. Maybe even Everton. They had a good year. You never know. But I think we'll leave Liverpool there. I don't want to feel like we're going on about them loads.
We don't want this to turn into For the Liverpool Fans.
This group of four is very interesting, and Liverpool are one of those teams that are very interesting because they finished second and lost their best player. So it's interesting. We'll go on to the champions, though. We'll go on to the team that didn't slip. Manuel Pellegrini had a very good first year in England. I don't think we can look past that. He's done very well to get City a title.
Yeah.
They just kept it going at the business end. Chelsea and Liverpool slipped, quite literally in some cases. We think that Chelsea bottled it. We thought Liverpool overachieved and got close, whereas City didn't care. They just went and did it, and hats off to them. This season, though, slightly different. I do think the signs or the changes that Pellegrini's made are very good. For example, Lescott out, Sanya in, Jack Rodwell and Barry out, Fernando in, Lampard in. So I think who would you have taken out of those two? Would you have taken Lescott, Barry, and Rodwell, or would you rather have Lampard, Fernando, and Sanya? I think I know what I would have picked.
I think people in the chat should tweet at us. People listening should tweet at us, letting us know what they think. Or if you're on YouTube, write it down or tweet us at ForTheFans. I want to say it's obvious, but I know someone's going to come up with some really convincing argument. But I think the signings they've made are very good signings. Yeah,
they're just clever signings almost. They're not going to set the world alight. They also got Caballero. Is that how you say it?
Yeah,
Caballero for Pantilimon. Who again? Those four that they've brought in are good, and the chances are Mangala will come in as well. Who apparently there's been videos of him just there, just hanging around, which I quite like. The thing with City is they're distracted by Europe, and then as soon as they get knocked out, they push on.
Is this the year is this the year that City can really assert themselves in Europe? Because for a team who have kind of I don't want to say burst onto the scene, but they've very much the last 5-6 years have barely been the years where they've suddenly become this team that people look at as a European force in terms of how they perform it in their native league. But they've never shown that in the Champions League, and it's hurt them because obviously the way the seedings and stuff work on coefficient is to do with your progress, and so they're always going to get put in these tough groups until they can kind of find a formula that sees them get to the quarter-final, semi-final, maybe even win it. And I think that's going to be Pellegrini's real task over the next few years, is to get that European success, which Man City fans just crave.
Yeah, see, you're in a weird situation of they've been vying for the league title to topple United for ages and to be the big dogs in Manchester. It now gets to a situation where their fans, I'm not going to say they're going to get bored of winning the league, but it's show us what you can do on a European stage. Don't just make us good and kind of create a legacy in England. Create an empire. Create something bigger than anything we ever dreamed of. Show us that you can do it in Europe, and that's the task, as you point out. That's the massive task now for Pellegrini. I honestly think City fans, at this point, City fans, if you're listening, please tell me if you disagree, because I'm very interested to know. Would you take second in a Champions League final?
Not even a Champions League win?
Just a final. Just to prove we can be there. We might not be able to win it, because if they face a Bayern or a Madrid or a Barca, you kind of can't begrudge it. But I think they'd take a final and second. Runners up in both competitions, I think they'll take it. That's progression for City for me. If they do it in the Champions League, because they can do it in the league. We've just seen them do it. We know, they know they can do it. But that Champions League hurdle is. I know this is a Premier League preview, but really we're talking about City's Champions League aspirations because they've won the title. We can't ask what they're going to do next season because obviously they're going to try and win it again because they proved they can do it before. It's big. It's a big challenge, and they probably need maybe a few more players in a few more areas.
What was I going to say? So obviously we looked at Man City signings a little bit. There's not too many, though, who I think are going to kind of become key first-team players right off the bat. So they're very much be looking at the players already there. You look at the likes of Aguero, had a very good year last year. I think he was second top goal scorer or third top goal scorer in the league.
Third, I think. Yeah.
third behind Sturridge and Suarez. Oh no, in fact, it was actually Yaya Toure, who I was going to come on to in a second, but I guess this works even better. It was Toure and Aguero with 20 for Toure and 17 for Aguero made up third and fourth. So for them, it's going to be big years for them. We talked a little bit during our World Cup preview shows about Yaya Toure being a little bit disappointed at the World Cup. Obviously, circumstances there certainly played a role, but even before the kind of, was it his tragic death of his brother, I want to say, or one of his brothers. Yeah. He just looked a little bit out of sorts. Obviously, that can play on your mind a little bit, but it's going to be a big year for him. And Yaya Toure, if he can really play it as well as he did last year, this year for Manchester City, he's going to go down as one of the great Premier League players. And I feel as if many people would argue, oh, well, he's there now. But for me, he doesn't quite fit into that category of... I mean, it's very difficult for a central midfielder to be... I don't want to say it's difficult for central midfielders and defenders to really kind of put themselves in the Hall of Fame, quote-unquote, of the Premier League. But
he hasn't got the aura of a Keane or a Gerrard or a Vieira yet, or a Scholes.
I think one more year...
He's so close, yeah, he's very close to it, but he hasn't quite got that kind of... This is Yaya Toure. He's got like the fear factor because he's a colossus. But what I'm saying is he hasn't got kind of... We talked about City's legacy in Europe. He hasn't got a legacy in the Premier League yet. And I think he needs to cement it with another, maybe 2 years of being one of the top players. But he's not exactly young. He's in his 30s now.
Yeah.
His time's running out. But I agree. I think he's going to be pivotal.
And Aguero as well, of course. I think he obviously missed a little bit of the season last year. But I think... For me, he's always going to be a great player for them. He's 26 now, so this is really his time where he's always been a mature player in the Man City side, but you now really expect him to lead by example. And he missed out a few times on injury last year, but I think he might end up getting the Golden Boot this year. I think you look at the players that Man City have in that creative area, and he really spearheads that attack. And
if he can stay fit, I think you're right. I think if he stays fit, you're right.
So I don't really know what else there is. I guess the same with Company in many ways, another key player for them who perhaps has to look to stay fit. Because I do feel like Man City's defence was their undoing point at times. I feel as if they could have run away with the league a little bit sooner than I guess they did in the end, because just defensively they weren't always 100% solid. Has Di Michaelis signed another year contract?
Well, I think he's there again. I think it's interesting. He had a very good World Cup with Argentina. We spoke about it at length in the World Cup shows, that he was very good, and it was kind of surprising to see him do well because of his Premier League reputation. If he can play in a similar form as he did for Argentina, obviously set up in slightly different ways. Argentina were quite defensive and quite robotic in the way they played, whereas City are a little bit more fluid, a little bit more flair, like to attack. If he can adapt, then him and Toure, like, let's talk Mangala, but him and Toure, him and Company could be quite a deadly partnership. You never know. Could be quite. You've got the stopper and you've got kind of the leader, and that's sometimes all you need. Shall we go across Manchester, Jack?
We can indeed.
And I think the team we're about to talk about, as much as I dislike them, I think they are the most interesting team in the league.
They're the one to watch, aren't they? I mean, Manchester United are always a one to watch, but I think this year they are the one to watch in terms of they go into this season off the back of what many will argue is their worst season in 3 decades, really, when you look at it. I think they became the first ever team to lose to every team in the Northwest in a Premier League season in all kind of the games. It was some... I don't know what quite constitutes Northwest, but obviously they lost both games against Everton, Liverpool, Manchester City. I mean, that's just not good enough. Louis van Gaal goes in there with his big balls, knowing that he has a job to do to transform what was a distinctly average Manchester United side who looked a little bit lost, looked a little bit like they lost some character last year when they finished 7th, and kind of pick up the pieces and kind of, I guess, transform this broken United side into a team that can really challenge for the Champions League spots. Yeah, well, we shouldn't look at, like, we've not spoken at all so far in any of our previous shows about pre-season. Manchester United's pre-season is giving a lot of Manchester United fans a lot of hope and belief that they could have a really good year this year. And as a fan of a team that had the same belief last year, and then that belief was kind of met and established and actually happened in front of my eyes, I can't begrudge United fans thinking we might have a really good year this year. And my response every time is, you may well do, and I can't criticise any of it because I had the exact same thought last year, and it happened. And while I don't want it to be good particularly, that's really positive for United, that they've got a man in charge that can motivate not just the team and not just the players and the staff, but the fans. And they're going to need it. And David Moyes was unable to do that. And I think it's quite clear to everyone now that he was just the wrong man for that job. That job was too big for him.
I think a lot of people said that before he took over, but he proved it. And Van Gaal, as you mentioned, he's got some of the biggest testicles in football. Luca Toni can testify. Testify.
He can.
Testify. Testify. No, I'll pause that right up. There's another one. And I think
do you want me to edit that cock up out the recording?
No, that was intentional.
Did you get it?
Oh, sorry.
Snap!
Sorry.
Sit down.
You got me. I was totally sucked in there. That's a horrible thing. You can cut that one out. But no, the thing.
Let's just let it 1 sec. Can we just let this all blow over?
Okay. Should mention him. He's not involved. The big thing with me though is that despite the confidence that United fans have, and I'm like I said, I can't criticise it, and I'm all for it in a way. They have lost Evra, Ferdinand, and Vidic, and replaced those three defenders with Luke Shaw, and only Luke Shaw at the back. They're not very good at the back.
I expect them to announce a few signings there's still a month left pretty much of the window. I'd be amazed if they don't go in for someone somewhere in the next few weeks. Really, they've been linked with a few different players. I don't get how you can rely on players. No disrespect, Chris Smalling, great player, but he's not a Manchester United star centre back, and he's not the kind of defender that you want starting realistically. I think. In a weird way, I almost hope that they don't get in a few more centre-backs and that it gives a chance for a few of the younger English players at United really to shine. Because that was one of my big criticisms of Ferguson, was the fact that he let the team get into the state of disrepair that kind of Moyes brought them in and kind of inherited, I guess. You look at the fact that I'm going to be really controversial here, but I think Ferguson during his last season at United, after the kind of heartbreak that was losing the title on the last day of the season to Man City, I feel like he focused on his own legacy. And I know it's really annoying talking about Ferguson with United. Well, no, okay. So the bottom line is, I think
United won the league when he left.
No, but the season before that.
Oh, okay.
So in his last season, he was hell-bent on kind of getting over that, and he focused on his own legacy rather than trying to bed in some of the younger players, and it meant that when Moyes got the team and now Van Gaal got the team, you have players like Vidic, Ferdinand, Evra, who are just past their prime, and I think if it wasn't for the fact Ferguson was so hell-bent on winning the league, that you would have seen younger players come in sooner and kind of be bed into the first team, rather than the situation right now where it's pretty much a complete turnaround happening in the space of a few weeks over a summer.
Yeah, United have lost Ferdinand, Giggs, Vidic and Evra, arguably four of their most influential players of the last few years. It'll be interesting to see if players like Rooney, who will now be asked to step up, Van Persie's one of the older figureheads now in that dressing room. And it's still weird for me a little bit to consider him a Manchester United player, and he's now going to have to be a leader in that team, which is going to be interesting. As you mentioned, they've got a very young defence. I think it's going to be tricky for United to attract the top caliber players. You hear about Hummels consistently. I'm not sure if Hummels would leave Dortmund, the second best team in Germany, to come and play out of Europe for a season, especially after winning a World Cup at Manchester United. I thought that would be. If he's going to go anywhere, Van Gaal might be able to get a player like that because it's Louis Van Gaal, and David Moyes would not have had a hope in hell of getting a player like Hummels to Manchester United. It'll be interesting. I think, as we've said at the top, I think United are a very interesting team. Arguably the most interesting. Luke Shaw, 30 million. Let's talk about it quickly. Weird.
Bonkers.
Yeah. I think he could. I keep hearing, but he could be great for 10 years. Yeah, we thought about that about Andy Carroll over at Anfield. That didn't happen, and we felt stupid. Luke Shaw's got a big job. There's not a natural other left back there now. Butner's gone as well. So Butner and Evra have left. Luke Shaw's come in. United need 4 new defenders, in my opinion. I'll say it quite bluntly. I think they need 2 centre backs and a right back and a left back. So we'll see how that pans out. But I do think they're really interesting. I think Herrera's a lovely little bit of business. I think he's like a younger, better version of Michael Carrick.
I'm surprised they didn't go for him in January when they were linked with. Was it January they were linked with him, or the start of the season?
It was last summer that they were kind of linked heavily with him.
And then there was the weird kerfuffle, wasn't there, with the agents on behalf of him who turned up, and then they weren't his agents at all, and it was all very bizarre.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard about that, but 2 guys turned up.
Yeah,
and tried to force a transfer. Should we move on to Joe Kinnear's Barmy Army?
Is he still there?
I don't think so. I hope not.
Judging on his signings, of which he didn't really make any. But yeah, let's talk about Newcastle, because Newcastle have been very active in the transfer. We'd actually hang on, just very quickly. Where are United finishing next season?
Fifth.
I'll say it. I think they'll finish top 4. I don't know where, but I'm worried. Newcastle United, then they've signed a few players from France, a couple from everywhere. Actually, they didn't go after too many Frenchies this year. So yeah, fair play, Newcastle. You've varied it.
You've broadened your horizons.
Obviously, Debussy's gone out. Marvaux's gone as well. He's gone out on loan. Shola Amiobi's been released. Dan Gosling, who was weirdly just at Newcastle, still's been sent to Bournemouth on a free transfer. But they've brought in Sim de Jong, Cabella, Riviere, Yamat, who was very good for the Dutch in the World Cup, and Ferreira, who's from Shakhtar Donetsk on loan, who I think a lot of Football Manager players, who we obviously have got an audience from Football Manager, will know all about him. Alan Pardew's still in charge, though.
I know I said it a few shows ago that I thought Lambert might be the first. I think I say this every year, to be honest, about Pardew, and I think everyone does, but I'm worried for his job.
Can you see Pardew going and then like a big European name coming in?
It wouldn't surprise me. We talked about this months ago. You may remember me telling you that I actually think Newcastle United might break top 8 this year. Newcastle United are always odd because they always seem to be played absolutely incredibly or terribly. Last year they had that fantastic start to the season. They were doing so well, and then it slowly kind of just slipped away.
The back end of their season last year was absolutely dreadful, like really, really bad. Like Newcastle fans were just sick of it. I don't watch him all the time, but the True Geordie, who does YouTube videos, watching him at the back end of the season was quite entertaining because he was getting more and more angry with Alan Pardew and Mike Ashley. And to be fair to Ashley, which it's just difficult for me to say, he's splashed a bit of cash. It's like he's worried about going down, and he's said, yeah, let's get 6 or 7 quite good players in. They've got no Europe to worry about. We didn't mention that with United, actually. Obviously, they haven't got Europe to worry about, and we think that'll benefit them. Newcastle may go the same way. Just they haven't got to worry about Europe. They may focus on the league mainly, but I'd like to see. I think a lot of Newcastle fans would just like to see them do well in a cup competition, and they never do. I've not really got. It's weird. I've not got that much to say about Newcastle because they're kind of middle of the road, hard to predict. They've had a good season, a bad season, and a different season. So what are they going to do this year? I really don't know. I think let's talk about the signing then. Cabella, goodbye, really goodbye.
A clever buy.
Clever buy.
I think he offers something for them. I think my gripe with Newcastle is the fact they have a very strong team, which just seems to underperform. And my worry is that a few of these signings might go down the same route. I actually think De Jong might be the one who stands out from their signings this year rather than Cabella.
Yeah, I think De Jong is a good buy. Also, Yamat, obviously, Debussy's gone, and I don't think Newcastle fans are gutted. He had a very good year last year, but I think the fact they've got Yamat in, they're very happy about. He had a very good World Cup. Whether he can replicate it for Newcastle, that'll be the big thing. They've also signed Riviere from Monaco, who is hotly rated, as is Ferreira. I've read it like 70 times. I can't even say it. You know when you do that sometimes? That's happened to me. That's happened to me just now. Pape Cissé not been firing, but these two might be able to.
Cissé, have they still got Cissé?
Yeah.
He's just been a completely different player since Bar went. I was almost surprised they didn't go in for Demba Bar before he went to Turkey. I think that would have been the signing that I would have liked to have seen them make.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I get the thing with Demba Bar might have been wage.
Yeah. I don't really know what to expect with Newcastle. It's one extreme to the other with them. And
it's the first team to stump us, isn't it? It's the first team a bit like, we don't know.
I genuinely don't know. I mean, I don't think Newcastle fans now. I think they've lost a little bit of faith in Pardew, but then last season there was a little bit of restored before the kind of terrible end to the season they had. They've not sold massive players. I mean, Shola Amiobi's the biggest miss.
They obviously missed Kabay last year, though.
And
last year, that's what they fought to sort of get back. And I think Cabella, while not a direct replacement for Kabay, he will offer that kind of attacking creative force, which they kind of miss without Kabay there. Ben Alpha's still around. It'd be interesting to see if, with this group of players, if he can play a little bit better, like he cares. That'd be nice. But yeah, I think overall we don't really know.
Where would you put Newcastle? I think you might as well get a darts board out. Wait,
Maybe.
Darts board actually has 20 things, so you could actually use a darts board to predict the Premier League table.
I've got a dartboard in the garage.
Well, I would encourage you, but there isn't really the time to run out there and throw a dart and tell us where it lands, and that'll be where Newcastle finish.
10th last season. I can see them doing better this season, so we'll go 8th, because I think it seems like Southampton will drop off a little bit. So we'll go 8th.
I think I mentioned top 8 earlier, so I'll stick my neck out on the line and go with 7th.
Who are they getting out of that top 7 then?
Who was the top 7 last year? I'm now trying to remember.
It was the top 4 with Tottenham, Everton and Man United.
I think maybe Everton or Tottenham.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll see. And that brings us to the end of this particular preview show. That was Liverpool, Manchester City, Manchester United and Newcastle United. We're also on fantasy football. I'm going to do it this time, Jack, if that's all right with you.
That's fine. I do a terrible job of saying all the social media stuff, so I'm just going to let you go nuts.
Thank you. Fantasy football. It's the pinned tweet on our Twitter. I'll make sure I put it on the Facebook when these go up. We're also on Facebook, facebook.com/ForTheFans Show, youtube.com/ForTheFans Show. If you're listening on iTunes, we are available on YouTube. Feel free to go over there and subscribe. It just means you can look at a picture instead of watching it on your iTunes. Obviously, if you've got it on your phone and you're watching on YouTube, we put it up a little bit earlier generally, don't we, on iTunes? If you're listening to this one on YouTube, there's a couple you can probably go listen to now on iTunes. Am I right? I'm guessing. There might be. Check it. Look. Aside from that, I think that's it. So from me, Ben, and my lovely co-host Jack, my handsome co-host Jack.
Thanks, babe.
All right, don't come on to me. Goodbye.
In a bit, guys. Thank you for watching.
Oh, that's nice. What a nice ending.
I know. I was all happy, huh?
You stupid dick.